You've heard it said that you can't see the forest for the trees. We're always looking to get the bigger picture in life, particularly in our religious life, as we consider today on Austin Faith Dialogue. A couple of folks are with us to give us that larger view. Stay with us.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, bidding you welcome to this edition of the show. And today our focus is Austin Metropolitan Ministries, because this ecumenical organization, which reaches across the spectrum of the religious community in this capital city, is one that can give us a perspective on just exactly what is happening in the big picture of the religious life. We have two folks here with us who are particularly well qualified to do this. We have Ron Kessler, the president of the board of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, and we have David Davis, who is the program director for AMM.
Nice
Welcome you both.
Thank you.
And I would like Ron, as the head of the organization, give us the big picture from your standpoint, what this is about.
Well, thank you, Richard. I want to thank you for providing a glimpse into the religious community by this show that you work hard at, and you become a real important man for me on Sunday morning to kind of start my faith day, and thank you for that. And I'm honored to be here and excited about what AMM is about. Let me just say something that's personal. To me, almost everything I'm involved in right now has an adjective that's I describe as community-based. And it seems to me that as people of faith, that we really have an opportunity to further define what community-based faith activity is about. And that's what we're trying to do with Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We're a collaboration of approximately 150 faith congregations of all denominations, stripes, colors, activities, beliefs. And some would say that, well, why is this important? When I stepped down as chairman of the Chamber of Commerce Board in 1993, I was really interested in what I could do to continue my community-based activity. And it became clear to me that the most exciting opportunity, maybe the best kept secret, and the greatest resource of this community were the people of faith. The people of faith who combined could do more than they could as single parishes, as single congregations, as single churches. So we went about figuring that out a little bit, found out more about AMM, and today we're continuing to organize and to establish ourselves, and basically we do that by building relationships and building trust. Now, Richard, I know you come from a clergy position in your prior life, and you know that within denominations, there is sometimes strife. Mm-hmm. Sometimes within churches or in congregations, there's strife. And what we're trying to do is move beyond the strife side of our religion, the stuff that the papers like to cover in the morning, or about this split, that sort of thing. And as people of faith, we oftentimes kind of move to the edges of our faith, and we want to talk a little bit about those things that differentiate us. AMM is about the business of pulling us together with those things that we have in common.
Okay. Well, I think that gives us a sense of how you were motivated to go into it, because it's stressing that commonality rather than the differences. And I want to come back to just a point or two you made here. But first of all, David, and welcome you to the show. Also, relatively new to the organization. How long have you been with AMM?
I've been there about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And where did you come from to take this program director's job?
I came from Hill Country Community Ministries, which is a faith-based organization in the Leander Cedar Park area, northwest Austin, servicing the rural community there. There were about 34 churches that came together to do social ministries together.
Okay. And now you're overseeing a program that, as Ron said, of 150 or so congregations. What are some of these programs you're cooperating on?
Well, there are many programs, 5 core programs as I would see it. We have our community mentoring network, which addresses the issues of youth and is connected with the Gardner Betts juvenile detention facility. We have the hands-on housing program, which is involved in maintaining affordable housing stock, making sure there are safe living environments for older adults in Austin. The program renovates homes for low-income homeowners.
Okay.
We have our Older Adult Commission, which coordinates programs for older adults and has become a clearinghouse of sorts for services being done for people facing the issues of aging. We do a conference on aging. We have the Homeless Commission, which sponsors the Homeless Artists Guild and provides a forum for artists and for volunteers to come together and work on projects together to get to know each other as human beings, equalizing relationships and so forth. We also have a Speakers Bureau, which highlights the needs of homeless people, advocates for change, for their betterment, and also is a brokering program for volunteers. We're connected with all of the service providers working with homeless people in Austin, and we help bridge the gap between the faith community and their services.
Okay.
Our most unique, the newest program for us is our refugee resettlement program, which we took over management for this summer. And we will relocate approximately 150 refugees here in the Austin community over the next year, coming from places like Bosnia or the Sudan or parts of Southeast Asia. It's a very exciting opportunity to be doing global work, really, right here in Austin.
That's your newest. By the way, there is a 6th program that predates all of those, and that is Austin Faith Dialogue.
Yes.
Started in 1988, and I think that we helped lift up to the public consciousness.
Yes, without a doubt.
And yet the other thing we do on this show is to go beyond AMM, to bring in folks who are involved in the faith communities that are not even part of the organization, because there's so much happening in this capital city. I remember once we did one of the early shows we did on the Gutenberg Bible, one of 5 in the nation.
Right here at UT.
Yeah. Right. And of course we also get into the kinds of things that you mentioned, the issues that are being dealt with by other groups. And so I think that we look at our cooperation with you as keeping that big picture, seeing the forest as well as the trees. And I want to come back, Ron, to one thing that you said earlier, and that is that you were involved in the board. I remember when a statement of purpose came out, strategic plan. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was with the idea that AMM is some things, but not other things. And as I listen to what David says here about the several different programs, would you say that AMM is a kind of religious united way? Is that one of the things that it is?
Well, yes, but I think that that probably confuses who we are. David just gave a great example of programs, and they're very important to us. But I think we're niche players in the program business. I think we're doing those things that maybe other nonprofits are not doing. We're using these as ways to get involved, get the church and the congregation, the faith community more involved. But we don't possess these programs, and in fact, I think I think we're really 3 things. If I could just sort of sum it up, we are doing programs, and we are assisting. We like to say we're serving, which we think is a better word than help or fix. And we like that concept of service, and that also has some very strong faith relationships to it.
And these would be examples of that. Well, what do you name?
David just gave us good examples of ways that we
What are the
serve.
other 2 things?
The other 2 things we do is we're a relational organization, so that makes us somewhat different, perhaps, because we go back to our roots, our sources, and that's the congregations themselves, the people of faith, who all share a common bond of wanting to serve their fellow man. I mean, almost every religion, I'd say every religion, has a common strain to it, a common element to it, that says serve your fellow man.
Okay, so
love your neighbor.
you're trying to bring the various aspects of the religious
And so we're
community
going
together.
back to the congregations and
All right.
saying, bond with us, work
Okay.
with us to serve. And then I think the third role we play, and interesting, that's a tremendously powerful work assignment and activity. It's a ministry. It's people in ministry working in their faith. One of my favorite quotes is a clergyman who says, Ron, sometimes I feel like every Sunday I'm in the pulpit and I'm teaching and I'm working all week long and I'm training my people, but we don't ever play the game. And AMM is a place that his congregation, as well as these other congregations, can play the game of serving their fellow man. Now, the third role.
Okay.
You're waiting for this one. The third one's not unrelated to what you do in your ministry on this program, and that is to communicate, to be a voice of the religious community. Let's take an example of something that could occur. We would hope it never would occur, but let's assume that someone were to vilify a church, to burn it down, or were to attack a clergy, or were to show aspects of hatred or hostility against the faith community.
All right.
AMM would be an agency that would stand up for that and would rally, I think, 99% of this community in support of that sort of thing. So we speak, I think, as a voice of tolerance, of sensitivity, of appreciation. We're not interested in we're not a church. We're not a religion, but we're an entity that appreciates the diversity of religion practices and faith practices that occur.
And I
in
think
this
one of the
community.
best things that illustrates that is this Thanksgiving Union service. Community service is held the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and that was not being done at all in Austin, Texas, prior to AMM's coming online. I think we'll just call up briefly what we have on that to show that this is going to be on the 22nd. And when we come back, David, you can give us a little bit more details on that. But there you've got something that brings together not just Christians and Jews, but people from the Hindu community and the Islamic community and Baha'is and the whole multicolored religious spectrum here. And I think, and I'm going to have you hold that just till the second half, because I'd like to use that as a little bit of outside the regular programming that you were talking about earlier. However, in the middle of this program, we stop and take our collective breath. And guess what else we do? We have a little series of announcements about these programs that you mentioned, and we'll take a look at those now. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back on this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where today our focus is on Austin Metropolitan Ministries, the group that sponsors our show, the one that is the most ecumenical, the most comprehensive in terms of its outreach across the interfaith community. We have two persons here helping us get that big picture. We have Ron Kessler, who's the chairman of the board of AMM, and we have David Davis, who is recently appointed program director for the organization. And just before the break, we made mention of this Thanksgiving community service. Tell us about that this year, where it's going to be and what it's about.
It is going to be at the Maronite Church, which is a new cathedral. It'll be an inaugural type event. We'll all be able to come there and appreciate the beautiful architecture.
That's out by the airport, isn't it?
I believe so.
North of airport.
And we will be listening to Elizabeth Esparza, who is the director of Thanksgiving Square in Dallas, which is an ecumenical interfaith dialogue organization there in Dallas. So we will be learning from her and celebrating with her.
I know last year this service was at the Hindu temple. There were 1,000 people there.
Yes.
And there were the folks from that faith tradition doing religious dances, and there was the keynote speaker was Rabbi Elizabeth Kunstler. And so that was a nice cross section.
It was a wonderful service.
Really?
It really was.
And now this Thanksgiving Square in Dallas, I think that's where these community services across the country, if not originated or at least served by. Isn't that correct?
They resource many communities there, and they're common ground.
I wonder why that started in Dallas. Do you know?
Well, I lived in Dallas when it was getting started, and it was an attempt by the faith leadership of the city of Dallas to create a place that was a place where people could come and be aware of their diversity of faith and celebrate that diversity of faith. And it's a beautiful place in downtown Dallas. It's like a park, and it's just a beautiful place. You know, interesting, Richard, we're learning a lot as people of faith about how to get along as people of faith. There are some who criticize our Thanksgiving Square as being something that would promote religious pluralism, and they find that to be perhaps contrary to their own faith. I like to look at it just a little bit differently. I like to look at it as a way to begin an understanding and an appreciation. And one of the things we've done, and we've stressed at these Thanksgiving services, is that don't come and leave your faith at the door in order that you wouldn't offend someone. I mean, you don't come in and brazenly attack someone, but bring your faith with you. And what we've encouraged is that if a Catholic priest were to pray, that he or she, or I guess it would be a he in that case, would pray as he would do at his church. Right. That if you were a Hindu, that you would celebrate that thing, that element of
not
your
try
faith.
to find a common denominator.
Not necessarily find a common denominator. It's hard in a worship concept to find common denominators. Where we find more common denominators is when we serve our fellow man.
Okay.
And that's a very important distinction. We have to be tolerant, but we can't stop there. And we should do that, but we should do that like we do once a year, and then the rest of the year we serve each other. And then we come back and understand where people get their source of strength, their spiritual strength, their faith strength.
Well, you know, one of the things about you're agreeing with that. What were you agreeing about?
Well, I think each of us, when you ask yourself, why are you serving? Why are you helping? Why do you care about needs outside of yourself? I think you come back to faith and find central motivations, and those central motivations come in a lot of different shapes and traditions. I think one of just agreeing with what you were saying, it speaks to the maturity of an ecumenical interfaith organization when you can pray in the name of your own God, when you can really celebrate your own tradition cooperatively and together.
Yes. Isn't that exciting? That's a great community event, isn't it?
You like that?
Sometimes
I think
at the birth,
powerful.
At the birth of such an organization, you can get an interfaith group together, and the conversation immediately goes to minimizing your own tradition.
Yes.
But in Austin now, we're at the point where we celebrate each of our rich traditions.
Yeah. You know, one of the things too, this brings up what it is that you find that gives cohesion to all of this, because if you've got people who are coming at beliefs in God, or whether it's Buddha or Mohammed or Jesus or whoever, how you find a common denominator in all of that. And you were suggesting that it has to do with service.
I think that's right.
That no matter what your faith is, if you're motivated to come out and join together, like last week we had a person from the Hindu community, and from the Jewish community, and from the Catholic community, from the interreligious dialogue that's going on through AMM. And they were all talking about where they were coming from, what spiritually got them going to work on hands-on housing.
Oh,
And they get out there together, and you know, they're not talking differences in dogma. They're parking their dogma at the curb and getting on with life together.
keep their dogma on a chain.
Yeah. So I guess that's it. But the thing that's a puzzle to me, and I raised this question with David earlier on, and that is, you've got these several different kinds of programs, from the most recent refugee program to the hands-on housing to the community mentoring network and homeless activities. Are these just beads on a string that don't really mesh together? What gives it its coherence and unity?
I don't think of the ministries as in terms of a bead on a string. I see it as kind of a platform for faithfulness, or a structure for faithful actions. All of these programs touch an identified need in the community of which we're all a part. All of our faith traditions are looking for ways to live out ideas, live out beliefs in history. So we are a point of contact. When I think about the diversity of programming, one reason for diversity is because people have different interests, and people are called to different tasks.
Okay.
And people have been blessed with different skills. The other piece is that the real need out there is diverse but related. When we take a volunteer team into a low-income neighborhood and renovate a home for a low-income homeowner, we are improving the quality of life in that community. We are making a safe place for someone to live, perhaps avoiding a hip injury. We are contributing to the health of the community in total.
And somehow that feeds into maybe the program that you do with youth through the community mentoring network?
Of course.
Because these are troubled youth that you're working with.
Of course. And what statement is it if we were to be able to match a volunteer team with a home of one of these youth who is also a part of our mentoring program? The community is making a statement. The community is saying we care. We're saying to a youth, why do you care about this community? Because you're a part of this community, and we care about you too.
But what about this refugee program? I mean, this is not dealing with our community locally. This is you're helping settle people from Bosnia or some other place.
Southeast Asia and parts of Africa. I think in Austin we're all aware that we are part of a world that's much larger than our border. And I think as we look at the news, as we read our papers, as we search the web, we're seeing all kinds of things that we need to be a part of, that we want to change, that we want to reach out to.
Were you in favor of AMM taking on this refugee program?
Oh, very much so. You know, we used to be called a nation of cities, and now we're becoming a city of nations. And if you would look in this community, these people are here, Richard, and they're coming from all different places from all over the world. This is an exciting population to deal with, and it's very important that there be a place for them to have a transition to a job, to a home, to family services.
You must have a tremendous amount of money, though, to be able to operate all these programs. Are you just sitting on a big wad of cash here to enable you to do all that?
If anybody's watching and would like to send us some money, we would take it, wouldn't we, David? Let me tell you, though, we have the ability and are trying to leverage two things that are very important. Resources of the faith community, financial and people and volunteers. Those are tremendously exciting resources. I bet I wouldn't know how to put a number value to the volunteer side of this sort of thing. Have you ever quantified that, David?
Well, the United Way has a formula. It's $13.24 an hour, and I just put a pencil to the hands-on housing event of last spring, where we had over 1,200 volunteers.
Wow.
1,200 volunteers for a couple of days on a weekend at $13.24. I mean, you can't really measure the value.
Yeah, it really says that when a community and people of faith really do get together, we can accomplish an awfully lot of good with limited numbers of dollars.
You also leverage certain public funds too.
Yes,
I mean,
we do.
like with the you have had VISTA workers and
Yes.
now VEST workers. That I mean, that there's some
And we've had
government
foundation funding,
Uh-huh.
and I think we're creating a model of what is the next safety net for this society. It's not going to be a government program. It's going to be a community-based program of nonprofits, of which a faith community collaboration like ours is a key player, and we're going to work to do I hope, more lasting service to a community than perhaps some of the
You
failed
served in the Peace Corps once.
Yes, I have. I've served in the Peace Corps. I've chaired the Legal Services Board in Dallas. I've been a part of the War on Poverty. If Will Rogers were to meet me, he said, Kessler, you've never met a federal program you didn't like. But I have seen how they have failed. And I see that the real solution is people of faith coming together to serve their fellow man.
But you once worked in Japan. What was that about?
I was with the Baptist church and starting churches and doing programs there in Japan. I taught in a refugee center in Omura, and made a decision to become a social worker out of that experience, as opposed to just a
So that really
pastoral
sets
ministry.
you up to work with the refugee program now with AMM, doesn't it?
It does. It was a good first start. There's a lot to learn.
You know, one thing that would have been a helpful bit of experience for you to bring to this job is you'd worked in a circus and learned to do a balancing act with
Yeah, that's a good.
all these 5 programs that you
Good training. Richard, isn't it interesting
The plate spin.
that a Presbyterian, an Episcopalian, and a Baptist could have this conversation on a Sunday morning and really like each other and not fight or anything like that? Don't you find that amazing? And that's the hope, I think, of what AMM is all about, that we can really have important dialogue, important understanding, and important commitment back to the community.
And you know, one thing besides the programs that we've talked about, and I've had occasion to observe this working with your organization over the years, is it is a source of ongoing information. People move to town, they want to know about churches or they want to know about religious stuff. They'll
correct.
call AMM.
That's
That
right.
could almost be listed as a program.
It
I really,
You know, I'm thinking of Susan Lumpkin and
Yes.
the information
Yeah.
referral database
I mean,
she
here's a person
maintains.
who's blind.
yeah.
She answers that phone. She's
that
got
wonderful?
a voice.
It's a program.
We could have the most popular website in this city.
Really.
Yeah, I think we should. We
Well,
probably do.
Well, that's a goal for next
work
year,
on
huh? Except we're not going to be able to explore that too much today because we're about out of time. But we're not about out of opportunities for people to serve through Austin Metropolitan Ministries.
Correct.
And you have helped us identify those ways, and we thank you,
so.
Ron Kessler.
Thank you, my man.
David Davis, bless you in your continuing work with your organization. And may each of you who are looking in be blessed and a blessing this coming week. Join us next week on Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Richard Thompson, and peace be with you.